All right, so I think we're going to start. This is the incomparable keynote. We left it very vague because honestly, we have no idea what's going to happen up on stage, but all we know it's Mr. Reggie motherfucking Watts over here, guys. Like, hello. As you know, Reggie is pretty much a genius. You can Wikipedia him. I don't even need to read his bio. But all that being said, we're so excited and thrilled to have him here for our WTF NFT symposium. Thank you again to the Hammer. Thank you to Annie. Thank you to Claudia. Thank you to Carla. Thank you to William. Thank you to all the AV crew. Thank you to everybody. Where's NATO? Thank you, NATO. Anyhow, all that being said, we're super stoked for Mr. Reggie Watts. Let's give it up.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, sometimes you don't need a hammer, but you always need a nail. Today you've been hearing about all sorts of, all manner of thing, or non-thing. How do we make those non-things into things? How do we make them count? How are they more than just doodles? They're squiggly and line themselves up in some giant ephemerate, a non-conceptual digital soup aggregate. How can we do that? Well, you've heard from at least 3 people about the subject today. And I'm sure you have a full understanding of what it is that the question is begging to be answered for as it's being asked. And we are excited about that. You know, when this museum came into being, MC was saying he wanted a good place that allows people to know him for things other than incredibly roomy pants, the inability to make contact with him, and he wanted something lasting. So when he had the idea for this museum, we said, sure. No one wants to be put in a box and appreciate him. So big shout out to MC. As you guys are getting settled, I know you guys pre-reserved your seats. It's E56. Of course, as this goes on, if you don't see anybody sitting in your seat, you know, or in a seat that you find more desirable, go ahead and just take that seat. It's fine. I always recommend center, kind of last quarter. That's usually the best place to see this film that we have that I'm introducing. In all seriousness, NFTs are diabolical, and they're going to change the world. How many of you have created or minted an NFT? Show of hands. Okay. Yeah, nice. That's not that many. That's good. I like that. How many have actively participated in buying or purchasing an NFT? Okay. Yeah, kind of less. That's good. I like this. So a lot of you guys are, you know, like whatever. So I like that. So, you know, when NFTs came around, or when I first heard about NFTs, of course we all heard about it because everyone was talking about it. Everyone was like NFT, 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 NFT. You're just like, stop fucking saying NFT. Certainly the name will clarify the full expansion of the name. Non, I get that. Fungible? Okay, not sure about that. Token. I don't know, it's the 80s, we're in an arcade. Obviously, there could be a better name, and we'll find one. We'll find one. The whole mission of it, just in case you're wondering like what this whole thing was about, we need to find a better name for NFTs. So we're working on that. Just can't be made a new NFT. Like it's just, it's like I just bought a new roll of Scotch tape. But yeah, so when NFTs first came out, I was like, well, I mean, the idea is really simple. When people say like, what's an NFT? Well, I don't understand what NFTs. I think sometimes most of those people that say that, they like not knowing. Like they get off on not knowing. So when someone's like, well, I made an NFT. What is that? What is an NFT? It's like, you know what an NFT is now. But I like being those people that are what Game of Thrones, what is it? Is that a TV show? So some of you guys are like cool not knowers. I get it. You want to stay on that, like, I don't know an NFT. Explain it to me. What is it? Very easy concept. It's just making digital shit not copyable. There you go. Done. So it's a magic trick. But I recognize the importance of it, obviously, because many of my friends do a lot of digital art, 3D stuff and 2D stuff, and they're putting it up there, they're putting it out there, and they kind of like, back in the day, you're just like, well, I'm just going to put it out there, nothing will happen, but people will know about me. Like that was kind of it. You could use it as a promotional platform, whatever you made and you put up online, depending on what platform you used and what the rules are about who owns that. But this idea of being able to take digital art, which is a real thing, and make it so that something is unique in the digital space. And that made sense to me because so many of my friends have made things, and again, they hang out there, someone copies it or someone just takes it and it gets used. And part of that is the spirit of the internet, I suppose, sampling, just open sampling, that kind of a thing. But if you do want to create something that is special and meaningful, but you happen to be using a digital, or it happens to be digital, then it's nice to know that you have a way of making it truly unique. And as we progress further and further into whatever this is that we're all doing, we will be involved in the internet, and I'm sorry, but again, metaverse, we got to find a better name for it. It's just like, it's all shitty names. Like, it's all stupid, shitty names. I mean, what is the what is it? What's the metaverse? What is it? It's like, it's just this, but digital. That's it. Again, that's it. Like, what do you mean? So like I could walk into a store? Yeah, if it's represented that way, yeah, you could walk into a store, but in a digital store, and you're an avatar, and you can walk into a store, and you can see stuff up on the wall, and you can be like, oh, that looks really good. Can I buy that? It's like, yeah, I'll go buy that. And that's it. So when it comes to metaverse, when it comes to our future, it is good and important to, A, create uniqueness inside of that environment, just like it is out here. Not guaranteed out here either, by the way. So there's got to be some pirating, to make it really accurate. We have to have there have to be loopholes, but also digital rights, rights to our image. Should we design an image for ourselves, and rights to, well, just rights in general, as we have here in this current reality, which is constantly bifurcating and changing into other realities. So I do enjoy the idea of making something unique, and that's actually really cool. And then of course there's the the gold rush that happened. I think we're over the gold rush now. Are we done with that? Okay. She's like, I'm gonna get that gold. And it's like, I just made a tape recording of a kid crying for 2 seconds. Okay, that there's encrypted as fuck. Who wants to buy it? Who wants to buy it? It's unique. You ain't gonna get another. I deleted the original recordings. That's how unique it is. I don't even have a backup of it. That's how valuable it is. It's my niece. She's older now. So there were a lot of people just kind of like, just NFT, and then of course there's the what is it? Grape ape? What's the ape thing? What's it called? Was it disinterested what? Oh yeah, Disinterested Ape Club. So so someone created like basically Cabbage Patch Kids. It's like Cabbage Patch Kids all over again, Beanie Babies all over again, and that's cool. And good on anybody to figure out a way to create a vibe that people dig. Some of it obviously is motivated by making money, which is what markets do, but I think most important, it's nice to know that you could make something and on your own without having to visit an official government site or anything, you can make something unique and you can lock it in. So in the early days when I heard about NFTs, of course, my friend Brady Keene, who goes by Panther Modern and also is in a band called Sextile, he's a huge, huge advocate for Web3, decentralization, cryptocurrency, NFTs, anything like that, capturing volumetric video of dancers and then making that encrypted as well as a way for dancers and choreographers to actually make money instead of constantly getting ripped off all the time. So he's really, really ahead in that space, and really I wanted to have him, be able to beam in and say something. However, he's very verbose, and we don't have 4 hours. So, but I will say that he and I decided to make an NFT, and I wanted to do something really special. And so there's a company called Looking Glass. If you guys are not familiar with Looking Glass, they make well, they don't want to call them volumetric displays, but they like the term holographic. So a holographic display, meaning that they have a technology which allows you to see a 3D image and that looks like it's in a kind of like a box of lucite. Something clear, like clear acrylic, and you see an object inside of it without glasses. You're just looking straight at it, and you can move your head, and it looks like a 3D object that's inside of this box. And I thought that was amazing because immediately I jumped to what's the future of television? What if we get a 50-inch, I want to say volumetric display, but it's we get a 30-inch holographic display. What could we do with that technology? How does that allow us to enter a world without changing it too much from what we're used to? And so I'd known Looking Glass since 2010. My friend Jake Lodwick, who created Vimeo, we were roommates for a long time, and we were always planning innovation shit. None of it ever happened, but it was fun to plan. He was busy. He was busy with Vimeo, which is an anagram for movie that no one ever realizes. But So he would invest in all kinds of burgeoning technology, and usually he had a pretty good sense of investment, and he invested in this company, Looking Glass, and at the time they were just taking, this is just a quick aside just to kind of give you an idea of what Looking Glass is about. They always wanted to, at that time they were making actual volumetric displays. So they were taking a cube and then running rows and rows and rows of parallel LEDs inside of these cubes that were opaque, and then they would create these programs that would create three-dimensional objects using whatever the resolution, the spacing between the LEDs inside of the box could represent. So you could see like a flower rotating inside of it or some kind of but it was usually rudimentary. So that's where they started. And then they ended up with this crazy technology that sends out two images at once, and your brain just kind of figures it out. It does this cool magic trick where your brain just figures out, oh, that's a 3D object. It's a really amazing technology, and there's a few companies. Sony has a display like this, and I think there's a couple others out there, but Looking Glass is kind of ahead. And they have a consumer version called the Portrait, and they were originally using it obviously for enterprise and medical fields or visualizing complex data and things like that. Of course, the advantage being we don't need we ain't need no headset. We ain't need no glasses. We can just like, hey, come over here, check this out. Okay, good. And you can walk away. It's not like, check this out. Just that's the future. Like that's the future. It's like, hold on. So that being an advantage, I just thought, oh, this is great. This is technology that once you're in front of it, it's done. Anybody can just look at it and go, oh, this is what's happening. So I was very excited about that. When they came out with the Portrait, it's aimed at it's a consumer product. It's about, I don't know, something like that, about that big. And I was very excited about it. And when they announced it, I got a hold of one of the cats and was like, "Hey, what about original content? Like, wouldn't it be cool to program or create original content for this display? That would be pretty exciting." Like, and my immediate idea was like, I wanted to do an early '90s. The band the Sundays, if anybody has the band the Sundays. Yes, Reading, Writing, Arithmetic, excellent album. But I wanted to create like a fake Sundays band, like a jangly, with like a beautiful female vocalist, and just create a fake band, do a fake, well, I guess it's a real music video, and then do a holographic music video. That was my goal. I wanted it to be retro because I wanted to feel like whenever new technology comes out, people just have this urge of like pushing it. And I have a what's your graphics card? It's a 4100 RTX. What? That doesn't even exist. I know. 600,000 teraflops per nanosecond. Rendering in real time using a new protocol. So I just was like, well, let's just make a music video. That'd be cool. It's like a really good song, and you can just like watch it. Like, how about that? That would be cool. Probably do a little bit more to promote your product. And so I didn't do that. I didn't get to do that. But what we did get to do, we decided on Brady and I decided to do this NFT. So we had this idea of using his avatar that he's created, and they would be dancing in the forefront, and then there's a system of TVs behind them, a la, I don't know, Brazil, and any retro future science fiction show that you've ever seen, and just stacking them up there and then doing separate videos. So there's videos of me performing different actions inside of a row of screens that are around his avatar, which is dancing to a groove that he and I created. And so they were down with that, and we decided to make it the world's first holographic NFT. So the idea, and that is true, we did do that. However, no one heard about it. It's the idea behind it was also what I like to call it's a phygital object. So it's a physical digital object. So when you buy this NFT, you're also getting an actual object with it that has a unique, an NFT as its subject. And on the back of the device, we had a laser etching saying, I don't know, something like the unrecognizable state of being, some bullshit title that I created. And then it said a one of one, and then had our signatures on it. And the dude who created Litecoin bought it for very cheap, very little money. And anyways, so we did it, and it was really fun. I mean, we did a window. We got a little section of a window at a record shop in Williamsburg, and we put out on Twitter, like, hey, if you want to go by and check this out. And we had like 5 displays playing the same video in concert, and you could just like walk up to this window at night. It was even like whatever, 2, 3 in the morning. If you rolled by, you could stop and watch it. I thought it was pretty cool. But at that time, things were, Beeple. Look at all the lonely people. Ba, 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 ba. So the Beeple spoke up, and the Beeple but Beeple, like, whatever, sold that shit for like $60,322.3 billion, whatever it was, and everyone was like, like, how do I get in on that? So we thought for sure, like, this is, oh man, we're gonna make some dough off of this one. I mean, it's a holographic display with an NFT inside of it. I mean, come on. And nothing. I think we said I think we sold it for like maybe $7,000 or something like that, which is not nothing, but compared to what the Beeples be making, that So that was that time period. We did that. I was trying to get this phygital idea out there because I figured, like, in the future we are going to have AR glasses. Those will happen. We're going to rectify the problems with AR. As if any of you have tried any HoloLens or a HoloLens 2 or a Magic Leap, you're looking. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's not. It looks like you're looking through a night's visor, kind of. Like through a visor, and these images, and they look cool, but like they just are constantly disappearing because they don't fill our field of view. But at some point, we will have these practical, nice glasses. You just put them on, and they just kind of project images, and they kind of, would account for the amount of space that at least you're looking through ocularly with the lenses. And once that happens and it's simple and elegant, you can just go, oh, here, check this out. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think that's how fast it needs to be. First of all, this shit, all this geeky technical syncing shit and waiting for stuff, like that's unacceptable. That's a beta product that's out in public. That is not the product. We put up with a lot of that shit in industrial design. However, once that is kind of, there's a popular version of an AR glasses that people want to wear. We're going to start seeing things, people placing things in spaces wherever they want, all over a city. Artists will be able to just like go, hey, check out my new installation over here, and they give you an address, and you go over to the address, and it gives you this physical element to a digital reality, and they start to fuse, but the senses are more used to the way of viewing it, and it feels more natural. And I think there is the possibility of naturalistic interaction with digital art and digital experiences, and of course, all of it, audio and video. And whatever, tactility, who knows? Maybe someone will do some kind of a crazy wrist thing that like does taptic things that fool your nerves at different times by vibrating at different rates, and that actually actuates different pressure points around your body. Who knows? But the most important thing is there's a crossover point. And so that was kind of my idea, like doing this NFT with him. I was like, oh yeah, that'll be cool. We'll get this digital fucking shit out in reality, and we'll be like the first out there to do it. And then of course, like I said, no one really heard about it, but we tried. But it was fun to make, but then I just lost steam on it. I made a couple other NFTs, minted a couple things, and I just lost my interest. I wasn't really interested creatively. It didn't hold my interest. And the problem with any of these burgeoning technologies, for me personally, there are creative people like my friend Brady. He'll spend days working on optimizing his rendering capabilities on 2 computers and using both of their processing power, but he loves getting under the hood and doing that. For me, as an improviser, if someone hands me an instrument and I can't intuitively figure it out within 10 minutes, then to me it's shitty design. It's terrible design because I'm not going to fault myself for not being an engineer. I'm gonna fault the company. I'm going to give them kudos for trying to make something, but I'm going to fault the company for not logically placing things where they need to be, not logically allowing someone to have the freedom to break some of the rules about it, so on and so forth. And yeah, there's like so much that bothers me about technology, but that's kind of like the major one. It's like it needs to be, if my mother can use it, or she can at least understand it, she might not master it, but if my mother can understand it, then we're off to a great start. So I guess for me, when they asked me to do this about NFTs, it's like I wanted to tell my NFT story. It's a long, tragic story. Kimberly's never going to be the same either. Once we started working on it, I just lost track of time, and I just didn't realize how important it was to spend time with her. And then she started calling me a lot, and I just got annoyed instead of just taking her call and talking to her. But yeah, and so I'm like, well, what's next? What are we doing? Where are we going with this? The technology that we have at our fingertips, and oftentimes because we're in this late stage capitalism moment, where the carrot that's being dangled in front of anybody hyperactively or any company hyperactively involved in the market is just chasing something that doesn't exist. They're just chasing numbers. They just want to see numbers increase, but there is no value system for human well-being. And to me, when I heard about Web3, and of course, big fan of decentralization, all of these factors, it made sense to me, but I was immediately just pessimistic, because corporations be always figuring out some way, to be making that money. It's like a secret Starbucks, like a Starbucks they tried to like make look like a local coffee house. They had like a stealth brand that wasn't colored green that was like way down on the corner of the door, like you're not going to see that shit. It's like, oh, it's still shitty coffee. It's still coffee beans that are over roasted because you want to be able to keep them longer so that you can keep your margins in line, and and then you just overcompensate with a lot of sugar, and people think that they like it, but really they're just addicted to sugar, and they're creating a lot of diabetics. So, but I do believe there is a way. There has to be a way that we can skip over that shit. And I'm not necessarily saying that the current system is terrible. It's definitely not for everybody. It's just for a few people. But the mechanism does work, but if the energy source and the value system was changed, you could keep the mechanism, but it would actually start working for more people in a meaningful way. Just as, Porsche, interesting company, great history. They're just nerds that want to make really efficient machines, but they're like, gas is on its way out. What can we do about that? So Porsche's like, well, I think we could, perhaps there's a way of creating a combustible liquid that is carbon neutral. Perhaps we make it from captured carbon, and then we make it into this liquid that we can just add to any automobile, and it will just work. And they are doing that, and I think that that's great. There's always a solution that I think that people get worried about. They think like, if you want to make change, positive change, the people in power are like, well, I'm going to lose my power. Nah, I'm not going to participate in that. I don't know why they're always Southern. I don't mean to do that. Sorry. But there is kind of something there. I got plenty of Southern friends that are just beautiful, amazing, progressive, enlightened, hyper-enlightened people. However, I am going to be using that voice, but just know that it is not indicative of my total opinion. But it's just like, there's this thing where it's like, oh, well, I'm going to lose my power. If I do the right thing, that means that we're going to have to put in this amount of money, and then we're not going to make as much money, and then that means that the other competitors are going to win, and so then we're asked out. So we can't really do that. But the thing is, including people and the brain trust that you have around you, instead of like worrying so much about creating all these fractured divisions in order to, I guess, create some form of scarcity, whether it's social, let's just call it resource scarcity, and to create this competitive landscape. While I love a friendly game of dodgeball. It's like we all have competitive elements within us, and I think there's I think competition is healthy. It's nice, like, I'm gonna get you, so I'm gonna get you. I've been practicing. There's something fun about that, but not when it's like, we are going to decimate them. They will be left. This other competitor is going to be left in total poverty. We will see them without a house. That is how I would like to see them, without a house and no water. Then we will have one. That's a little too far in my view. But I think it's about efficiency. I think if it's about efficiency, I think that we start to learn something interesting, that if you give people a chance to attempt their potential, and you give most people, I'm just going to try to keep it somewhat grounded, most people the opportunity to exercise that and to innovate, and to give them a platform that's not invaded by some kind of a corporate structure that doesn't really allow them freedom in the end. I think that's a better way of utilizing humanity. It's like, you see all these, I don't know if you've noticed, but there are some people that are poor that you can see visibly on the streets in almost every city. That's so much potential just wasted, just sitting there being wasted. And then you got other people that are poor, but they got a roof and all that stuff, but they're in survival mode. So they're so busy in survival mode that when an idea that seems interesting comes up, they're like, huh? You got enough food to eat? Like they don't have, it's not natural for them to have enough time to like let their mind wander and think about the potential of the universe. And not to say that doesn't happen, but it makes it very difficult. And so I just see that as very inefficient. It's a terrible way of being selfish. Because I think if companies or people in power were really selfish, they would make sure that the communities and the people around them were doing very well. If that were the case, then they would have goodwill, which is something you can't buy. You'd have more cooperative spirit. You'd have more people that have less of a burden on them, so that they're free to think of really interesting ideas and an idea that might help your company. So I think that the opportunity with Web3, and I know people are saying Web3 is already becoming the web now already, but with decentralization, taking power and bringing it back to the individual and allowing us to come together in smaller groups and solve our own problems and just bypass these legacy systems is awesome to me. That makes so much sense. I think it's good for our health, and I think it's good for artists especially. I think we can get lost in this digital cascade fantasy potential land that's like kind of made very difficult to understand by its complexity and the shorthand that's rapidly generated and kind of excludes people just inherently. And so I'm excited in participating in a future that promotes, decentralized manufacturing. It's like I need a baseball hat. It's like, well, there's a factory that's like 3 blocks away that uses recycled material, and it can generate the cap that you want. It can print whatever you need, most of what we need. And that makes sense. Then, of course, energy, fusion. It's right around the corner, supposedly. There are 3 companies that are right on the verge of making some pretty amazing breakthroughs with fusion energy. So imagine decentralized energy. Then you have things that power cities that allows the city to be completely energy independent, and then all grids are networked, so when power is needed, it's taken care of. And then you don't really have so many problems with Bolsonaros and Putins and all these motherfuckers. They're like, we've got all the resources. It's like, no, we're good. Like, fuck you. Fuck, we got more for us. It's like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we spend like $20,000 for energy for an entire year for a city of 700,000 people. Okay, yeah, that's cool. We're Russia, so. And obviously, that sounds like pipe dream style of living, but I don't really think of it that way. I think when I did a talk at a Microsoft engineer convention a long time ago, there were 10,000 engineers from Microsoft in a sporting arena, and I was giving this keynote with like giant jumbotron screens, and I just told them, I was like, please keep telling yourself that there are no problems that we cannot solve. Literally, not in like an aspirational way, not in like I am somebody. It's not that. It's just like cut and dry, realistically, pragmatically. Any problem that we have right now that we're dealing with is completely solvable. Like we've got more than enough capability to solve it, but we don't have the will, because everybody be looking at them numbers and trying to preserve those numbers. And that's what worries me. So I'm really into skipping the line. I think we should like leapfrogging, I think that the more that we can really contribute to that idea, and whatever our skill sets are that we contribute to that reality, whether we're engineers or just idea people, techs, mechanics, whatever it is, I think it's going to be really exciting. I think that we're at a point now, we're at an interesting point in humanity, and I am excited in general. And I know that it could go wrong because we always be fucking up. It's like, here's the right way, cool, but just 1 second, no, okay, well, damn, let's reset. It's kind of like the ending of Heat, made no sense. He's on his way to the airport. He's done. They got the money. He just has to get on a plane with a very attractive partner and go live life. But no, they better turn around and have a shootout with the guy that almost stopped me with a bunch of like random objects around in a junkyard or something like that. Like that makes no fucking sense. But that is kind of a metaphor for how we like to do things as humanity. I do enjoy. I'm not gonna get massively political, but I did enjoy the Matthew McConaughey speech that he gave. Yeah, it had some McConaugheyisms in it. He's McConaughey. He gonna be McConaughey, but I did love that he said that it is not that we are not as divided as the messages that we're getting. that are constantly being telegraphed by media. And I thought that was very important because I've been wanting to say that forever. It's like I just want to hear leaders say these things where it's like it's just not true. It's really not, because guaranteed you could be in like the roughest neighborhood. I've been in situations where I'm like, I might be fucked here, and a person drops something and I like pick it up for them and give it to them. They're like, oh, thanks, man. I'm like, oh yeah, it's cool. Oh hey, I see you're wearing this thing. It's like, oh yeah, I just got this. Yeah, and you start talking, and friends come over like, yeah, man, what are you? Yeah, it's just Apple. Oh, it's a new Apple Watch. Which series is it? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I really like that shit happens way more often than the other shit, and I've definitely. I don't know. I'm just hopeful that the reality we're being presented is not very accurate. I think it's, I don't know, 20%. I know it sounds crazy. You guys are probably like, no, it is accurate. But I just think the media has to be making that money, so they need the exciting shit. It has to be death, destruction, dissonance, discordance. That's the reality. It's like, I just don't think so. I think people just want to party. I think that people like food, people like to dance, people like art in general, people like to solve problems. We like to daydream, we like to be creative, we like to help other people. All of that, I think that's really what most humans are about. Even the most, the most of us that are like in the phone, really wrapped up, not aware as much of what's outside. Once that's broken and you're like, oh shit, I can help, most people do. It just kind of happens. And so I think that these technologies that are determined to make the digital space fair for individuals is very, very important. And I think that that is a worthwhile cause, but also, conversely, in real life, whatever that is, because we all know it's a simulation. But, what we practice in this life, what we like in this life, and what makes us feel secure and good in this life is something that we can take over to the digital space as well. And it doesn't have to be owned. Just because these technical systems are set up and you're like, well, the pipeline has to run and there has to be a service for it and we have to charge you money. I agree. That makes sense. However, you don't have to own the intellectual property. There's a way of creating social media that is just, I don't know. Imagine Instagram as like chronological. Imagine it with no ads. Imagine it as a subscription, but it's really affordable. It's like $3 a year, something like that. If that were Instagram, I'd be like, yeah, that's great. It's like, there isn't any trick algorithm going on? Nope, no trick. It's just chronological. Yeah. Whoa, that blows my mind. It's crazy. You trust people that much to honestly post what they're posting and then experience that in real time? Oh, that's interesting. But I just think that we can make better decisions. And so, yeah, when I was on this journey of like, oh, NFTs, crossing, because since I was a kid, I've been in virtual reality. I was dreaming, I love Narnia. I love the idea. As a kid, I used to pretend to like go through my mom's closet and would think that I would start to feel a cool breeze emanating from the back of it. Oh, was that a snowflake? These coats don't look like coats. They're looking more like branches. These leaves. Because as a kid, I was an only child, and I wanted to live in a magical world. I wanted to go through a portal into an amazing, imaginative space with friends and go on adventures. And that's not quite what we have on the digital frontier so far. Because let's face it, there are a lot of indie. Talking about video games a little bit, and I'll open this up to some questions because I know I've answered everything that you've ever wanted to know. But video games in general, I'm a little disappointed with. I do get tired of just constantly blowing shit up and killing people. And I get it. It's fun. I mean, I play The Division 2 like way too much, and my player is way overstated and stacked. But I want cooperation, and that's why I do like The Division 2. It is a shooting game, but you can also help other people out, and you can collectively solve a problem. I'm just saying, there needs to be more creative, clever, grounded, integrated, organic experiences when it comes to digital the digital land space and how we interact with it. I don't think it has to be cold and futuristic and neon and post-apocalyptic and whatever else that we tend to love, because there's so much of it. And it's like, oh, is that the only reality? Is that all we got? You know, I mean, we have The Last of Us. There's a bunch of cute indie games that are really cute, but they're also indie games. You know what I mean? They're not like they didn't pour millions and millions and millions, quadrillions of money into this game that's just about like a realistic emotional immersion in an alternate universe. Like, that's what I want. I want to experience those things. I want to be able to connect with all of your visions of what you think the future can be or what it should be to interact with and on a fantastic level. And that's all I want to do. I just want to provide experiences. As me personally, my art form and what I do, I want to provide experiences that allow people to just exist in a space and feel what it's like to exist in a space and have interesting conversations with people. I think there's plenty of room for shooters and all that stuff, all the crazy shit. But I think what's really going to be successful in the future is just small scale, really to get easy, beautiful experiences. And that gets me really excited. And that's why I'm starting something called the Artificial Time Travel Network, which will include a series of installations such as a 90s internet cafe, where you go in period accurate clothing, you surrender all of your modern digital devices. At the door, you go inside, it looks like an internet cafe from 1998. There's a DJ playing in the corner. There's a place where you go up to the register and you ask for time on the computer, and you ask for 1 hour. Can I have 1 hour of time on computer? And they're like, yes, here it is, and this is the money. And you're like, okay, here's the money, and they give you a little ticket, and it's got a number on there, and you go and you sit down at a computer, and then it's got the little field to enter the number, the code, and then a counter appears in the upper right-hand corner. It's an intranet. It's not connected to the internet, but it is a simulated intranet. The intranet simulated in 1998. All your favorite sites are on there, and you just hang out. That's it. You can bring a camera if it's period accurate or older, and you just hang out. There's no actors going, there's something happening in the bathroom. It's just a space that you go into and you just exist. And I want to promote that idea where we can kind of divorce ourselves. I mean, I was lucky enough to grow up in the, I guess, time, but specifically, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and I loved not being connected. That was such a beautiful experience. And it feels weird because I'm so hyper connected now to my phone. I can't imagine that. But there are moments where if I drive up to Angeles Crest and Newcomb's Ranch on a Friday afternoon, there's no cell reception at all, and there's just a bunch of people hanging out going, hey, what are you doing? No, not much. You wanna use? Was that marijuana? Does that have weed in it? Does it have weed in it? Yeah, tobacco? No tobacco. Good, thank you. Yeah, I'll do it. It has weed. Yeah. So tell me about that's what all it is. It's just people just hanging out, and you're like, oh, is this possible? So I want to create a bunch of experiences in the future that just remind us of like what it was like to hang out before. You know, we're like, hold on a second. It's important because my friend who's like, she's having like emotional breakdown right now. Okay. All right. Sorry. So like, hold on. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. But like, so you're going, okay. No, I'll wait. Which is great. I mean, I love the idea that we're like, I can be in several realities simultaneously. I can handle it. It feels powerful. God, what is the name of that guy? Fuck it, I'm going to look on my phone. It's like, no, don't do it. No, you got to remember it first. Whatever, all the games that we play. I guess that's in short. I just want an encrypted future, but encryption used for good, just to make it like how it is here. It's like, I am who I am. And this is me, and this will be me also in the digital space if I want it to be, and that's groovy, and I'm going to make a bunch of cool shit, and we're all going to be connected, and we'll realize that and appreciate the value in one another, and don't have as many divisions as we think we know. But I'd like to open up for questioning by the jury. Yes. Say again. Are you at all involved with Bioneers? Autodesk, I know a little bit because I have some friends designer friends that use it, but I haven't personally used them. I don't know much about them. But you're exactly what they're looking for. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, okay. Then I guess I'll do it. You just like read tomorrow. It's like president of Bioneers. Like, whoa, thank you. So sweet. Thanks for the suggestion. No, that's great. I will look that up. That's cool. Bioneers. I like the word. What is Bioneers? Might as well ask. Sick. I'm so down with that. So down with that. Not only that, but what's great about that is that it's not hard. It's fun. You know what I mean? Like, why would you not want to have? Also, companies should not be afraid of like just disappearing. Like, if it's. I mean, think about it as like, you know, music scenes, right? It's like let's say you make your friend's like, hey, there's a cool band in Oklahoma City. So you move to Oklahoma City. And when you get there, you're like, holy shit, there's a whole scene here. But then after 2 years, like some of those areas like get gentrified and then things change or whatever. And then that scene just doesn't exist anymore. And I think that companies can follow that model a little bit. It doesn't have to be like persistent maximum success all the time. I think it's like, is this fun? Are we having fun? Great. Are we not having fun? Can we try to make it fun? We tried a bunch of times, not happening? Cool. Well, then we're done with it. Do we have any other questions about the future of our digital lives? Yes?
Wait for the mic.
Oh, yeah. Stand by, initiating, and go.
So I really believe that to activate with a lot of individuals on a larger scale, you resonate with movement. You activate with the movement within the individual. So I've not seen a way to correlate, kind of what the expansion of the direction you're trying to take this, and the interest value I understand, but you're very passionate and you understand where this can go, but I feel like what you were speaking on made me feel that you want to connect with something deeper with the individual to inspire something that allows you to have the ability to converse with your fellow other and maybe create something that's Web3 based, not associated with these larger systems, because we have brilliant minds coming together that need to be together. And I feel like nothing brings them together more than, activation through movement, something special, something that makes the individual feel like they're contributing, just like you're saying. And I feel like the most important thing right now is to find pioneers who can latch on to, or help create that network and give someone the utilization to apply themselves, but lead that way. And I'm wondering, is this something you've applied any thought to, or is this direction of thinking coming up in any of the circles that you've been around or that you've been witnessing?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of it comes down to UI, really. User interface and user experience when it comes to these technologies is kind of everything, because there would be more brain trust happening if we were able to figure out UI a little bit better, meaning that we need to be able to interact with these machines, which are portals to this digital system, that makes it feel relatively simple and naturalistic. And I think that's where it's creating a conduit that's pretty efficient that allows ideas to flow. So to me, I like to focus on UI a lot, which seems like a kind of a pedestrian thing, but it's actually kind of everything. Anybody else? Oh, you got a mic. Oh, sorry. He's got a mic already. I apologize.
No worries. I can come back to you real quick. I'm just going to ask maybe some thoughts for artists in the audience about, with NFT and the ability to own your own art. And, just about, certainly I think it's kind of weird to have everyone be their own copyright lawyer. I mean, it's kind of weird, like you're like talk about late capitalism, like the ultimate effort is everyone becomes their own capitalist. But that said, there is also something about the dogfight of owning your own image. and the ability to become your own kind of creator and producer. So I was just thinking about as an artist that navigates complex social spheres and, from comedy to music, you kind of operate in different spheres. For everyday artists, what do you see the opportunities are? Or what could we do as a community to assert a kind of solidarity economy, or ways that we can both be kind of mutualistic, but also kind of tips for how to kind of enter into this world in the next few years, because it's shaping right now.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that. I mean, a lot of it, again, it just comes down to the ability to, like, if you have an idea, if you have a great idea, or if you've like drawn something that's really cool and you want to share it with somebody, you could now just, call somebody or FaceTime them and be like, look at this, and you can add some people to the call, and that's really groovy. But in let's say a digital space, a hardcore, more immersive digital space like VR or something like that, it's really hard for that to happen. You have to really, 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 really adjust to that. I think this idea of ownership, I don't know. Well, the thing is, like, ownership, capitalism, all of these terms, I think they kind of need to be reset and defragged a little bit, because it's really just about, we want to share experiences. I have an idea, it's fresh right now, I want to share it, but I don't want to see the freshness meter just rapidly decrease as I'm like trying to figure out how to even send or connect to the people that I want to share with. Because oftentimes by the time we're there, we have to re-excite ourselves. It's like doing a pitch 1,000,000 times over to a bunch of different people. It's like, you can simulate your excitement, and it's certainly there, but there's no replacement for that initial idea where you're like, oh, I've got to share this with you. So, I think it's going to be a little while, but I think it's the ability, it's speed and ease to communicate with, and also feeling like it's encrypted, like you're sharing things in a safe space, in a safe way. I don't know if that totally answers it, but that's kind of roughly. Oh yeah. This guy, and then you guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Reggie. So I actually wanted to ask you a question related to, you were talking about some of the great ideas you had, and just some of the, I guess, challenges you were facing, like getting it kind of discovered. So one of the words in my mind was how important discoverability is, and not just, like the internet as it was created is meant to be a place where people can post a website, and there's trillions of websites out there, but most people are now using things like Facebook or Instagram or these platforms, and that's how they're reaching out to people with their ideas, their products, like whatever it is. So I don't know, I guess I was just curious on your thoughts about the future of discoverability. I mean, there's the medium of the NFT or whatever the technology is to create something, but the people who control the modes of access or the discoverability, the Googles, the Instagram, Facebook, Meta, whatever it is, or whatever it will be for NFTs, those are the entities that really kind of dictate who can be found or who cannot be found, and which ideas come up and which don't. So yeah, I'm just kind of curious, what are your thoughts about the future of discoverability in this space, or what would you like to see?
Well, again, I think it needs to be as easy as it is in this life. Oftentimes, like if I hear, I'm just using bands because I go to a lot of live music, I will just go to a club, just randomly. I don't even know who's playing. Sometimes I'll just go to the Echo, and I'll just pay the cover, and I'll go in and I'll see who's playing. Or friends are like, hey, you got to come down to blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll go check that out right now. Or you got to check out this track. It's like, I just sent it to you. Oh, that's really cool. Then I posted, somewhere, some kind of a messaging board, and then people find it that way. I think that we already have the model for all of those things right here, right now, like this is, and there needs to be a way of, as its basis, the way that we interact in a digital metaverse, whatever the fuck you want to call it, there needs to be a way for us to feel somewhat approximate to that in a digital way, where it's more organic. It shouldn't be. That's why I don't really like the algorithm thing. The algorithm really is only there for selling shit ultimately, and there's promotion behind it, but then that's also selling shit. So I like when things are naturalistic. I like if someone's really good at something, people talk about that person, and then you hear about it, and it's like, I heard you're the best blacksmith in this side of the Western Pecos. You know, it's like, yeah, and that person is, you know, or they're not, and then you give them a bad rating. But I think that there needs to be that ease when you go into whatever, however we're interacting, which we still haven't figured out yet, but however we're interacting with it, and whatever that digital world is that we'll operate within, it just needs to be that easy. Sorry. That's my cousin. That's my rough estimate answer. Who had a question over here?
Hi, Reggie. I currently work for an AI. I work for little Michaela, the digital influencer.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. And I used to be an Imagineer before that.
Sick.
I had a mentor when I was at Imagineering tell me that UX and hardware will never meet that threshold that we need to tell a Imagineering level story. That we'll never be able to put that technology and that power in actual artists' hands. And I've worked on a couple AR projects, I've worked on a couple VR projects, and I just wonder what you see to get us to that next level of storytelling where we can get to a full level of immersion and build a greater level of empathy and allow storytellers to actually get there at scale.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I think about that all the time. I mean, it's the frustration, right? It's the frustration that I have as a storyteller or an experience creator. A lot of that has to do with, a good example is the first time I realized what a hi-fi stereo system actually is and what it does. I've told this story before, so I apologize if you've heard it before. But I was at a stereo shop when I was living in Seattle. I was on this place called Stereo Row, and there was a guy that worked there, this young hi-fi guy that worked at the store. His name was Leland Leard. It's an amazing, perfect name for someone who works at a hi-fi. Leland, what do you think is the best cartridge for my current turntable? Well, it depends on the size and the weight. But one day it was almost closing time, and I was about to leave because they were closing, and he was like, hey man, do you want to get your brain fried? And I was like, what? Yeah, I'd love to get my brain fried, thank you. And so he closed the shop, and it was him and 4 other friends, and we went in the back room, smoked some marijuana, and took us into the showroom, and then proceeded to tell us what he was going to play Dave Brubeck. Was it Dave Brubeck? No, I'll remember the dude shortly. But he was explaining what is all the equipment that we're using. Here are these speakers. Here are the cables going to the speaker. Here's the preamp. Here's the turntable. Here is the cartridge that we're using. Here's the arm that we're using for the turntable. He explained all of it, and it all came down to about, I think the entire system cost a little over $100,000. Entire system that we were listening to this thing. And he put on this, it was Bill Evans. So Bill Evans Trio puts on the record. He's like, this record's only been played about 3 or 4 times. So it's really fresh pressing. Puts it on there, turns down the lights, puts the needle on the record. And it was like I was in that room. And people will say that a lot, but this actually felt like holographically, the band was right there. I could hear the wood, the resonance of all the instruments, all the shimmers, the shines, the air of the room that it was recorded in, and everyone started crying. It was some of the most beautiful music I'd ever heard. I mean, I'd heard that music before, but this was new music because I was hearing it. And then I had this epiphany. I was like, oh, the expense of the system is so that the system disappears. It's no longer there. And all you are left with is the direct connection to that thing that's being transmitted. And I think when it comes to AR, VR, all this hardware, and what your person said, is that's where we need to get to. I'd rather use, it's like we're so on the edge of it, and when we participate as people who are interested in something, we're also at that edge. We're a little bit behind it, but we're caught up in the technicality of it. And it takes so much of the human inspiration and imagination away from it. People who are really into it are persistent, and they can kind of shrug it off and maintain connection. It's I know that this is worth it. This is worth it. But we need systems that make us forget that we have a headset on, that we're in a room that has just a bunch of light projectors that are creating interactive holograms, whatever. It needs to feel like magic. It needs to feel like a light switch. It should be as simple as like, oh, would you like to see better? Click. It needs to be like that. And I think that that's our problem. I think until we figure out, we either take what we have now and scale back the project so that it's so doable and it's so easy for that system to handle it, that we can connect to it that quickly. That's my thing. It's like when you're at a concert, at a festival, and they've got a 60,000 watt sound system. Insane. Oftentimes, venues have way overpowered sound systems so that when they're not really pumping out that much volume, it sounds incredible. It's really about presence. It's not about loudness. People think it's about loudness. It's not. It's about presence. Music is about presence. Fidelity. And I think any of these mediums that we have that we're like, oh, it's going to get us in there. It's going to make us feel like we're in the closet in Narnia, where it's going to happen. We're going to emerge and we're going to get some Turkish delight. But it needs to feel naturalistic and easy. And I think that that's kind of the thing that holds us up with technology. They're not going for that necessarily. They're solving other problems because they're engineers, which is dope. And that's what engineering is. It's just solving problems. But you need to remember what is the feeling you're going for. It's like how an artist creates. Like some people just have a feeling. They're like, I need to get this feeling out. And whatever medium they're using, they exercise that, and what's guiding them, the guiding principle, is the feeling. And as they're making something, they're able to tell if this is what they're feeling. And I think that that's the important thing. And I think that obviously technical is technical, and it's understandable why they wouldn't necessarily make things in that way or be seeing things in that way when they're designing these systems. But I think that that's kind of, for me, that would solve a lot of problems if they worked with artists perhaps a little bit more. That way they could save a lot of money, because they wouldn't go all the way down this path and create something like Google Glass or whatever, which you could have told me one picture of a mock-up. I would have been like, no one's going to trust anybody with a camera on their face. That was it. That's all. That's basically it. Like there was nothing before this, and the first thing you're going to introduce is something with a camera that's networked. Okay, yeah, that's just not going to fucking work. It's pretty obvious, but that's so much money they spent developing that. I don't know that, but that's kind of long-winded. But yeah. Anybody else? Harold Skirtsmer, I imagine. No, I think that's probably wrong.
I'm a little confused on the NFTs. It seems, rather than a way of moving forward non-tangible elements like ideas, isn't it limiting how accessible these great advancements in digital work can be?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's purposefully limiting in one way, which is I love that one. That was good. I'm out. Yeah, you got to leave in style. He's just like, I am out. It's like, I see you, and good journey too. Muk al aktanalieta. I mean, I think it's obviously purposefully limiting in one regard, because we want it to become a thing that is unique. But the thing that is free is the experience and the interpretation of the experience. So the observation of it or the experience of it is really probably the important thing. So I think that doesn't have a limit. But
it just seems like you're trying, like the goal is to value add an experience, whereas as an artist, you work hard making an original piece of work, but you don't own the photographs of the work that can extend through networks and be widely known. And that's
right.
What artists like to do, is have their work
Amplified.
Seen by lots of people. They want to sell it for a lot of money to somebody, but they want it also to become part of the network. And it seems like NFTs would limit the ability for networking creations.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could still take a snapshot of an NFT. You could still like broadcast it. You know, it could still exist as a normal object would. I think. I mean, that's my. I guess what I'm saying is I don't really see a limit on that scale because you can still talk about it and you can still see representations of it. But it's like a one of a kind, whatever, anything in the world. Like it exists, and we don't all have access to it, but we can see images and we can read articles about it and so forth. That's an interesting question, though.
Hello, thank you, David, Leonard. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
So I came to NFTs kind of late. I'm on the Tezos blockchain. Anyone know this? All right, we got some people.
Tezos on the block.
Yeah.
In chains.
But I'm an artist, and I came to it for a place to mint. But then I ended up becoming a collector.
Oh.
And it was a strange sort of dynamic that happens, I think, as an artist, because you sort of are looking at things and then you're sort of buying them pretty cheap to pay for the mood board. I mean, that's sort of how it was for me, is like, oh, okay, this is cool. And suddenly I have a lot of things I bought. And then I have these relationships with these artists all over the world, starting dialogues with. And then there are others. I never was on Twitter before this, and now I'm on Twitter, and I kind of find myself a troll, and then I'm like, what has this thing done to me? And then I've bought stuff, and then I've been blocked by artists that I bought because I'm just sort of starting this dialogue, like what I think is casual, critical conversation, and I own your work, and then they're blocking me, and then I'm like, I'm learning about utility, and when the artist blocks me, then the utility is sort of gone in a way, but then is it? And then I'm thinking, like, should I sell this thing? Like, do I want this thing?
Right, do you want the vibes?
Do I want the vibes, right? So I don't have an answer, necessarily a question, but I wanted to pose these relationships that are emerging between artists and collectors and artist collectors and relationships, and then sort of this idea of like, owning things, because there's this question also about like, do you separate the artist from the person, and then, it's okay when you can go to a movie and you leave the movie and you're like, I didn't like that, or I really like that, but I hate that director. But then there's another thing to have this thing as part of my wallet of like a despicable person, for instance, or not even despicable, but just casually cruel. Like, how could you
casually cruel?
Like, so in this, I guess, like this NFT thing, besides the money and all these things, it sort of bonds you in this way that you have this art or something, this token of this person, and then you're trying. I'm just feeling all these new feelings.
I love this. This is great.
That's it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that highly. That's a really cool journey. Like, for real. I mean, now it's a kind of you're a victim of, and we are all a victim of the context clarity. It's you're reaching out, but you're reaching out digitally. You own a piece of digital artwork, that is rendered unique, and you're trying to reach out. But of course, we don't know context at all. Oftentimes, we read things and we're like, that person must be angry. It's like, well, we're just kind of guessing that they're angry, unless they're specifically saying that they are angry. But context is a tough one in the digital space when you're trying to communicate with people that you've never met. And it's always that way. Even like as an avatar, or like, the early days of alt space when I used to hang out on there a lot, I would have some amazing experiences sometimes. I'd just be cruising around and I'd be like, hey, you want to check out my restaurant that I created? It's a facsimile of a restaurant that I own in Tokyo. Like, really? Like, let's go check this thing out. And then we're talking, but we have talking. So at least I have like a little bit of context there. But it's amazing like how it's led you to this different way of communicating. And it does beg the question, how do we communicate with one another, and how do you communicate with, especially an artist or someone that you're involved in with their work, whether you're buying it or contributing or whatever it is, and how do we have these conversations without immediately misunderstanding each other and then just being like, oh, fuck this dude, I'm blocking him, you know? It's like the blockchain for real, right? It's like for real. But so anyways, I just appreciate that. That's something I'm going to be thinking about, but that is a thing. Like I try to engage with almost every comment that anybody ever makes online. So if anybody makes like a crazy negative comment, I love coming back at them. I love, it's my favorite thing in the world because there's no way to win when you're aware of the most powerful tool in the world, which is paradox. And paradox allows you to reformat anything into any perspective that you want it to be. And so I choose to make it absurd. So so in a way, like I like, not everyone's educated as to the fact that people might not understand your intention when you write a message to them. Some people will be like, wait a minute, before I make a judgment, maybe they mean this, or they actually misspelled this, which could be whatever. You know, you're thinking about all the other options instead of like, oh, this person's being a dick. But most people are not going to do that. They're just going to like, this is how it hits me, and this is how it must be. And so that is an interesting question that we have to wrestle with. It's either like we have more sensitivity on how we approach people, or we say like, perhaps you meant this, or perhaps you meant that. Maybe that starts a dialogue. Generally, in my experience, when I do that, it does start a dialogue. And at the end of it, people are like, well, I mean, I just didn't think you were that great. And blah, blah. And I was like, I agree with you. I thought I did a lousy job. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, totally. Like, but thanks for pointing it out because that's actually correct or whatever. And then people are like, oh, they loosen up. And that's actually an important space for me, I think, in the digital space. If you give people a little, you don't have to, but I'm just saying, like, some people are like, I'm not gonna do that. I get it. But if you want to, you can reframe things and encourage a dialogue, even if it's a very short exchange, because if that changes their experience of what they thought was going to happen when they wrote what they wrote, that's huge. That to me is an additive experience, especially when they're like, oh, this person's gonna, whatever, I'm gonna tell them that they suck, blah, 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 end of story. And then suddenly they like answer back to you and you're like, what, wait, what? No, you're not supposed to. Well, you know, and I think that experience is important because it shows that there is a responsibility to what we project, just as we do in real life. You wouldn't say certain things in front of someone's face. It's like there's no excuse for that on an electronic level either, unless, you know, you're trolling on purpose. But even then I invite that because I'm like, you're not going to win this. We're going to both win this. So fuck you, but also not.
I think that was the last question.
That was the last question. Let's see if I can get up. Oh,
go Reggie, go.
Oh shit! Ow. Well, thanks, MC Hammer, for the museum. And yeah, thanks a lot for coming to this and learning more. And you know, and just remember, things are much simpler than they are presented. So just keep things simple. Thank you.
Woo!
Give it up. Trick. Give it up for Reggie Watts.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Hey, we're going to have a little reception out front. I got some Alaulis cards if you want it. Thanks to Esther.
Thank you, Nato.
Thanks to me. Thanks to Claudia. Thanks to you. But I think ultimately the message is it's a big world. Trust artists. Build community. Don't sweat the haters. And let's go build together. The world's being shaped as we speak. Thanks so much, Reggie. Thanks, Hammer.
Thank you.